So every 6 months, there's a certain game that pops up, and that certain game is a game that got announced back in December 2020. And it's a game that still many people think that we're not going to get, but the devs have still talked about that it's still coming, and it's coming early 2027. But that date constantly moves every single year. Now today, we are going to be going through everything that's been said about ARK 2 in the most recent interview with Jeremy, the co-founder of Studio Wildcard, in an interview with Rasklark. This interview, by the way, was one of the best interviews we have had for ARK in such a long time, because there was so much juicy detail to break down in there. So we're going to go through all of it, and if you guys do enjoy, drop a like, subscribe, and let's get in with the video. So yes, as I said, the co-founder Jeremy hopped onto a kind of interview in celebration for Rasklark raising over $30,000 and said that if you raise $30,000, you can release this interview with me, pretty much by the sounds of things. And in this interview, we got a whole bunch of ARK 2 stuff to talk about. So we're only going to read the ARK 2 bits because I know that's pretty much all you guys have come to this video for. And as I mentioned earlier on, the most recent release date news we had was actually from Jeremy himself again earlier this year, saying we won't be seeing ARK 2 until at least early 2027. So anyway, the first bit was pretty much something they were just talking about the story and going back to things. And they said we wanted to clear up and expand on various relationship details which critically pertain both to the plot of ARK 2 and also settle on a more consistent characterization for characters that we've seen in the animated series. So basically, since the launch of ARK Survival Ascended, Wildcard have been doing a lot of tidying up of the lore. And not everything can be perfect because obviously they've come up with different ideas at different times. It's like sometimes they have to go back and then they go forward again and they go back because they come up with different ideas or good things that can fit in with the lore. So basically, one of the reasons what they're trying to prepare for ARK 2 is to ensure that they can be fully prepared and it fits in with the lore. So next up, we have a little bit down here. They said we wanted to set up ARK 2 by carrying over certain post-Extinction developments which play out in Lost Colony into Arat Prime. And they also go on to say, we knew we wanted to explore Arat in this expansion and have an overall polar theme for that. We considered a few other plot structures which were more self-contained, but ultimately we wanted to center the development about what's going to happen in ARK 2. So Lost Colony, which is coming out next month, is going to be a massive indicator of what's going to be happening in ARK 2. Of course, Bob's True Tales and Genesis Part 1 and 2 is going to be the true lead up to ARK 2 because those two DLCs are coming out next year. So once we get everything, we've got Fjordur as well next year, then that's when we move on to ARK 2. And by the way, I say we move on to ARK 2. You guys might not like the third person aspect and you might decide to carry on playing on Ascended. I still think what the plan is going to be is that the Wildcard will move the lore over to ARK 2, but they will still release maps for ASA. Like, you know, it'll be more like community created maps rather than story maps. The story maps will move over to ARK 2. But who knows? Maybe they'll do a new story map on Ascended. I don't think so. I think they've mentioned that. Even Snail mentioned recently, it's ARK 2 is going to be massively story driven. Right, okay, what we've got next up here was where we talked about the NPCs recently. So basically, for the launch of ARK Survival Ascended, Wildcard said that they're going to be adding several ARK 2 features into Ascended because basically they plan to do ARK 2 and then they decided with all of the new features with Unreal Engine 5 they were going to remake the whole of ARK Survival Evolved in a whole new light. So a lot of the features they had planned for ARK 2 are just coming to Ascended now, and that means that they've got many more newer features coming to ARK 2 when that comes around. I mean, I still think it could even be longer than early 2027. I reckon late 2027 is when we'll see the first early access of ARK 2. I hope it's early 2027, but it just feels like a game that you're never going to get. But anyway, so that was that. And then next up we had, so they said, Lost Colony is more story orientated than anything we've done before, with the possible exemption, of Genesis 2, though in terms of Lost Colony's sprawling connections both backwards and forwards and its methods of conveying narrative, Lost Colony is more ambitious in that regard. So Lost Colony is the testing ground for how far we can take the ARK narrative techniques going forward. However, in terms of gameplay mechanics, ARK 2 sits in a completely different place than Lost Colony, which still fundamentally is ASA, and in that sense, Lost Colony isn't so much a redefinition of what we've done before, just a further refinement of it. So yeah, ARK 2 gameplay mechanics are going to be so different. Like, you know, Dark Souls-like combat is just enough on its own there to know that it's going to be different. And something else we have here is they go on to say, oh, this is where they basically were talking about Genesis Part 1 and Genesis Part 2. You know how Genesis Part 1 is going to have a map-wide water biome. Genesis Part 2 is going to have a map-wide space. And they say the storytelling of Bob's True Tales, which is the next expansion, will be CGI-orientated, canonical, true to life on ARK 2's world, which is really cool. So we're actually going to get proper CGI, like we've seen some teasers in some trailers of ARK 2's world. So for the launch, and so that will be next year, 2026. So we'll actually properly start to see more about ARK 2 with the launch of Genesis Part 1 and Genesis Part 2. And then we've still got another 2 bits regarding ARK 2 in this post. So basically, Ras Clark goes on to say, seemingly told through both CGI cutscenes and animations, a huge congratulations for getting Mappa on board. With an even broader star-studded vocal cast, Katie Sackhoff and Keith David, it's a wonder how each will complement the other through an apparent high-stakes survival experience. Will we find both told through trailers, preludes, or conclusions? Or will we find these carry the story midway, just like the Explorer notes? Are you finding this to be the new format to replace Explorer notes altogether? And how often can we expect to be told in the past sense from a rat? Helena. And on the subject, will we find any clues to the world of a rat in ARK 2? And yeah, pretty much Jeremy just said, yeah, there's going to be, like we've already mentioned before, there's going to be so many clues that link into ARK 2. Like, it's been happening and it's been going on for years. Like, the last 5 years, there's been lots linking to ARK 2. We just didn't realize how long it was going to take. I mean, by the time we actually play ARK 2, it would have been 6 years. Like, so let's say it comes early 2027. It would have been 6 years from the time it was announced at the Game Awards, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, and I by the way, I probably said the same points. It's been 2 years, it's been 3 years, it's been 4 years, and me probably saying it's crazy. And now we're going to be up to 6 years when we actually hear something. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much everything ARK 2 that was talked about in this interview. So, yeah, there's going to be lots of story stuff related to ARK 2 in Genesis Part 1 and Genesis Part 2. There's lots of new ARK 2 features that are going to be implemented into ASA before we see them in ARK 2, which is which I think is pretty cool, personally. We're definitely going to learn about more of the map and what ARK 2 is going to look like within the Genesis maps too, through new CGI, which is fantastic. And yeah, in a very, 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 I was about to say very soon time. That's not great, is it? We will be knowing a lot more about the game, and of course the gameplay mechanics, which is something we were told we were going to be getting years ago, actually, to see the gameplay mechanics of ARK 2 ourselves. Anyway, guys, I will see you in my next ARK video in 6 months' time. I mean, of course, for me right now, I just want to see some form of release date. We never really hear anything about it these days. I obviously am mainly focused on ASA these days, but I am looking forward to seeing what they do with ARK 2. So, anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Of course, I'll keep you up to date as I hear new things, and I'll see you in my next video.